Now I'm pleased to ask Tom Cherry to join me as we invite you to go to the microphones to clarify or ask questions to either of us about the plant upgrade, the vote, costs, view, and prospects for our lake and our water quality in the future. You've heard about the toxins which prevented Toledo, Ohio residents from drinking water even after boiling for several days last month. Is this happening here? No. Could our blue-green algal bloom produce toxins which our water treatment plant could not remove from our drinking water? I'll let Tom Cherry answer that one and any other questions you have. Then we'll bring Dawn up to broaden the perspective. Our lake means everything to our properties as it does to the institution. Therefore, any threats to the lake are threats to our properties. We take this very, very seriously. Tom?
Property owners organization, particularly Bill Meaches and Hugh Butler, have been tremendous. The Bird Tree and Garden Club has always given me a great deal of support, and I appreciate that, or I probably couldn't get up here to do this. Although we did go to a concert last night where a 14-year-old young girl was able to stand up and put on a tremendous performance, and I said last night to myself, if she can do that, I can certainly do one more of these speaking. I got her by a few years. Anyway, I'm here to ask you to support our board members on August 12th. The election for commissioners is between noon and 4 in the Colony Building. I'm also here to answer any questions you might have about the expenditure of up to $8 million for a wastewater treatment plant. Not only upgrade of a 37-year-old facility, but to install new equipment to remove nutrients, particularly phosphorus, and also ammonia nitrogen from the lake, so that we don't have an issue like they have in Toledo, very serious problem, which I am assured has been taken care of now, and the city has returned their water system back to normal. I will get into that if you'd like me to get into that a little bit. It goes without saying that there's an algae bloom occurring right now. In fact, on my way here this morning, I took a pass by the lake, and it looks like green snowflakes in our lake. This is a normal function of any water body, but it is accelerated and magnified by increases in phosphorus, and in particular phosphorus from not only runoff from agricultural land, but airborne phosphorus that comes to us in the form of precipitation. And I think probably you would agree with me that we've had quite a bit of precipitation this summer. When they brag about 4 days of sunshine in a row, I think we probably have been wet and cloudy. All of the runoff from the entire watershed goes to Chautauqua Lake. That feeds the algae problem. As far as harmful bacteria and algae, the bacteria that we're most concerned about is E. coli. That doesn't seem to be a great issue. The beaches weren't closed due to E. coli, they were closed due to blue-green algae. Blue-green algae is neither a plant or an animal, it's somewhere in between. And scientists have always disputed whether or not it was a form of bacteria or not, and the dispute goes on. But some forms of blue-green algae have the ability to produce toxins. The toxins are what you're concerned about with either drinking, swimming, your pets going in the water, or whatever. Those toxins are held in a cell of the algae and can be released if the cell is ruptured. As far as our drinking water plant goes, we are monitoring the situation right now with the blue-green algae blooms. We've had tests as results as of yesterday that says we're fine. I don't expect a problem. Conventional water treatment plants will remove a good portion, if not all, of the algae situation. The only thing you'd have to worry about is the toxin that could be released if you don't treat the algae properly. If you rupture that cell, the toxins are released. The idea is don't rupture the cell. If the cell does get ruptured, there are chemicals which we already have been using for zebra mussel control and happen to have the same chemical available that will neutralize and oxidize the toxins. So we're in good shape. Toledo happened to have a problem because the bloom was directly over their intake. They have a crib out several miles in the lake. The lake is fairly shallow. Lake Erie's fairly shallow on the western end. And they had a problem one day that they got sucked in a bunch of algae and most likely lice or fractured those toxic cells and released the toxin. But I'm here mostly to answer your questions. I can answer questions on whatever you like, but we probably should try to do it on water or wastewater. I'm available anytime to answer your questions, and we still don't know at this point exactly how much this sewer plant renovation and upgrade is going to cost. We won't know that until we're done with the renovation and upgrade. You always have change orders. There's always room for mistakes and things that went wrong. We've tried to allow that in our $8 million estimate. We are expecting to get bids to come in at less than our limit. If we don't, then I'm sorry to say we'll have to revote and or rebid, and you'll probably see my smiling face next year. I hope and I think, and I've been advised by our engineers and all of our other team members, including our capital markets investor advisors for serial bonds and our serial bond attorneys, that we have allotted enough money to be able to get this job done. And I'll do my best to do that for you. Did I miss anything?
I think you hit it all.
Okay.
That's good. And the handout, everyone has that as well? That one? Thank you, Deborah.
Oh, one other thing I might mention. If you are a property owner who has a parking for, it won't be long. You know, if you are a property owner who has your property in a trust, a cooperative, a corporation, or the like, then you will need to have the majority of your members who are in the building with you fill out a proxy for you to vote for our project, because you'll be allotted one vote. We have those. I have some with me today. They will be available on Tuesday at our election.
And they were also in the daily.
And they were in the daily.
Okay. Yes, sir.
I'm not sure if you're the right person to ask, but have they considered a sewage system similar to what Arcata, California uses? If not, why not?
Difficult question. We hired a professional engineering firm who's been doing work not only for us but for Chautauqua Institution for a long, long time here and understands our needs. I'm unfamiliar with the California process. I don't have an idea what you're talking about, but it probably would be something I could learn about.
They use, in addition to conventional treatment, they use lakes and marshes to remove nutrients, and so it's a less energy intensive process.
Constructed wetlands.
Right.
We consider constructed wetlands. In fact, I had a campaign going to do constructed wetlands. But it was going to be at golf course areas that were unused for golfing. And we had a little conflict in that the new stormwater system that Chautauqua Institution is going to install is going to use wetlands constructed at the golf course. So the lack of property is what drove us to get away from that. I'm impressed with what I've seen about them. We're a postage stamp as far as being able to do it within institution or within institution property.
Plus, the DEC told you that they had never approved such a project.
Good point,
before.
I went so far as to talk to the Department of Environmental Conservation about that. And they said in the state of New York they have never approved one. That's not saying we couldn't have, but didn't look too good.
In the previous meeting, I believe there was some talk about a unified sewage system around the lake. If it was a larger system, there would be land probably somewhere to do something more innovative like that, possibly.
There is an integration. Vince Morgan would have told you this had he been here. Don can speak to that when he gets up as far as how that's evolved. But yeah, to me, when I first asked Tom about engineering wetland 3 years ago, I think something like that, the land was not the biggest barrier to me. The barrier was that New York DEC was unprepared entirely to give it due consideration. It's just, we would have been pioneers. We like doing pioneering work here, but we can only do 3 or 4 of those pioneering things at a time. I think there was a concern that if the delay went past the federal EPA guidelines and we still had failed to reduce the phosphorus emission, then we'd be subject to daily fines. And that didn't seem like a good one.
Good morning.
Did DEC or DEA or whoever it is need to approve our plans? Did they approve our plans yet?
My conversation yesterday with DEC was that they had 90% of the information they needed from the engineers in the engineering report, and they have approved the 90%. They need another 10% of minutia, as it was called, to satisfy the needs of what they call 10 state standards. 10 state standards are the Bible for construction here in New York State and the other 9 states involved. Everybody uses 10 state standards as the rule of thumb. There were a couple of items in the 10 state standards which were not addressed in the engineering report, and that's to be done this week. I'm still trying to get a letter by the 12th.
That was the question.
Thank you.
But since I'm standing here, would it be possible on the day of the election for you to stop by Smith Wilkes Hall at 12:15 or 10 after 12 and say hello to Bree TG and all assemble there and encourage them to vote?
Drag a few voters over, right?
Yeah.
Sure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, Tom. My name's Jim. My wife and I are up on Howard Hanson in the northwest area, and to my understanding, our water comes from the Chautauqua Utility District, but our sewage goes north to someone else. The question is, how does this impact us?
There's a technicality involved with this which I don't completely know the answer to. It's more of a legal interpretation of our charter. Our charter says anyone within the property owners within Chautauqua Utility District whose name appears on the assessment roll of the previous year, 2013, is entitled to a vote. Now, your sewage goes to North Chautauqua Sewer District. You will not be assessed tax-wise to pay for our facility because your sewage doesn't go to us. But you are still encumbered with the idea that our indebtedness falls upon your shoulders as a normal function of the utility district. We levy taxes, and our responsibility to pay our serial bonds falls on all property owners. You won't be levied for sewer tax, but you could be held responsible for the total package of the plant at some point if we default or something happens. It's a difficult gray area.
But he is encouraged to vote, because the vote, you vote because you're responsible, plus the vote includes a vote for commissioners as well, which is also a responsibility.
Yes, ma'am.
I do want to emphasize, I have a niece who lives in Toledo, and how important it was, and we were sending bottled water from Cleveland to Toledo to help her out because the lines and everything were so amazing in Toledo in her struggle. But so it's a very, very important issue. I own a condominium, which is, I was told was real property and separate, and my home address is in Cleveland. So I know this is a basic question. I am allowed to vote, and what proof do I need when I go to vote?
if your name appears on the 2013 tax assessment roll we get from the town of Chautauqua, you are permitted to vote.
Great.
Thank you.
Morning, Tom. Richard here. But assuming that the bond goes through and the construction project happens, is there any new footprint that is added to the sewage treatment plant? New land?
We're going to encroach on the fenced area a bit in places, which we need to work with the Chautauqua institution, but we're not going outside the fence that's there very far. We have enough room to squeeze this thing in with a shoehorn. And that was my desire from the beginning, to make sure that we weren't going to have to do any more property acquisition. We have, just because it's you, Richard, we have the ability to have eminent domain come in, but that isn't going to go over well in here. Thank you.
I'm glad you sensed that, quite frankly. Any other questions for Tom? Thank you so much.
Well, this was good. Thank you very much.
We are now joined.
a regular basis, and I put out a newsletter. Many of you have signed up for it. There was a little thing out there, it was a half sheet that said North Lake Informed Citizens. Yeah, Deborah's holding one up. If you'd like to hear from me in the winter about what's going on off the grounds, I'd be delighted to send you emails. I've got a couple hundred people so far, so a few more hundred doesn't matter. It'll be fun to keep you informed. As a result of these ventures of mine, I've gotten to know Don Emhardt, who is now the town supervisor of the town of Chautauqua and is a very good neighbor. We're going to do a little bit of a Q&A thing, but I think I want to let Don answer Hugh's question before we do our Q&A. So I'm going to answer Dean.
About the Alliance.
Okay. New Chautauqua Lake Alliance, actually Chautauqua Lake and Watershed Alliance, that will replace the Chautauqua Lake Management Commission. We've been working on this a little over a year now. We just got our first look at a week or so ago at the new bylaws for this alliance. This alliance will work with the CLA, Watershed Conservancy, Visitors Bureau, everybody that is currently working on the lake. The reason for the change, the Chautauqua Lake Management Commission was brought in by the county legislature to do a study and make recommendations for the lake. They were not given a checkbook, they were not given a shovel. All they were to do was the study for the lake. The study for the lake was completed a little over a year ago, and we realized that it's going to take a lot more money to fund what needs done with this lake than we have locally. The alliance will be an executive director and maybe 2 or 3 science people that will oversee the lake and implement this plan. Their primary function will be to get state and federal grant money to come in and fund the projects. They'll also be able to accept donations, but they will not compete against Watershed Conservancy or the Lake Association or those organizations. We will not go out and seek funding except for grants.
Westfield recently got a fairly sizable grant. Was that federal or state? For their water treatment.
I don't know.
Okay. But the fact is that there are appeals that can be heard out there because more and more people are getting aware of the importance of good, clean water.
Yes.
Right, good. Who are the major stakeholders in the alliance?
I guess the major stakeholders are everybody that likes the lake. The board of directors will be made up of 5 elected officials and 4 others, whether they're from the Chautauqua Lake Association, Chautauqua Watershed Conservancy, Visitors Bureau, and then there will be another organization which kind of governs them, that will be the Friends of Chautauqua Lake. At least this is the first rendition of what we plan on doing.
You said that they would be elected by whom?
The elected officials will be 1 member of the county legislature, the county executive, and then 3 members from the towns and villages around the lake.
Are the towns and villages that do not have connection with the lake, are they affected at all by any of these activities?
No. I guess it would be primarily towns and villages within the watershed of the lake, which takes in a few extras, but mostly the driving effort are from Bemis Point, Mayville, Celeron, Lakewood, and the towns that surround the lake that actually have lakefront property.
I think you were alluding to, what you were saying earlier, to the areas around the lake that still use septic systems, and the fact that Chautauqua County is a large dairy county, and those 2 factors need to be considered.
Okay.
Punt.
Yes, we are. We have just funded for $50,000 with O'Brien Gear a sewer study that will take all the current sewage facilities into consideration, along with the 2 major portions of the lake that are not sewered, that are still on septic. Those 2 pieces are between Midway Park and Hartfield on the far side of the lake, and Prendergast to Asheville Bosse's. Did I hit that, Tom? Those are still on septic systems. In the TMDL, which the total maximum daily load for phosphorus that the DEC did, there was very little consideration for the amount of septic system phosphorus that is going into the lake. However, everybody knows that you count on dry dirt to absorb the phosphorus, and the dry dirt hasn't been around this year. This will contribute to our algae blooms and weed growth. So we are doing a study to eliminate those septic systems, hopefully, or replace them with septic districts with tighter controls from the health department, from the county. Farms. That was the next part. There is one major or mega farm within our watershed, and that's up onto Whitfield Creek. Working with the county soil and water people, they have recently done $1 million renovation on their, not sewage, manure distribution and storage. So that has cut down quite a bit. I'm going to say 90% of what comes down to Whitfield Creek into the lake has been eliminated due to this upgrade.
Well, it's clear that a lot of people are very concerned about the lake. One of the things that always strikes me as I'm coming from Fredonia on the back roads is there's a sign on the hill saying Chautauqua Lake Watershed. And it's pretty far away. And there are more and more people who are getting really tremendously concerned and involved, happily, about the condition of the lake. I think the commission, the earlier commission, did a lot of healing in that they brought groups together that had been kind of at loggerheads. I have the solution. No, you don't. I have the solution. They sat down at a table and began to work in a positive manner and put together an excellent report that is the groundwork of what you're going to be doing. So that's basically what we're about. One thing that you can do as buyers in the county, look at fertilizer where you buy it, if you buy it. Look at the soaps and detergents. If they have phosphate, obviously don't buy it. But please go to the manager of that store and say, you should not be carrying this stuff. See, grassroots activists, I can never stop. Thank you. Thank you.
Much appreciated, your work. It has been my great pleasure to serve as CPOA president these last 4 years, meeting some of the finest Chautauquans who volunteer their service willingly to help build a better community. I thank them and you for this great opportunity and challenge. The CPOA board has new leadership and a strong direction. My hope is to continue to serve this community I love in other capacities and to the best of my ability. Thank you.